This is The Big Breakdown, a long look back at some of the biggest stories we're covering for you at the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today. This is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Here now, Tony Bruschi.
This is chaos. The Nancy Guthrie story, 1000% chaos. There's a lot of information out there right now. There's a lot of misinformation out there right now. There's a lot of information out there that, quite honestly, as you try and wade through it, you go, is this reportable? Is this a thing? Is this being held back? Is this nothing? Is this someone's opinion? That's what happens when you have a void of information. People fill in blanks. We are going to do our best to accurately fill in those blanks as best we can based on the information, but at the end of the day, this is an opinion piece. This is something where you're going to have to take a look at where everything stands, depending on the time you watch this, because quite honestly, things keep changing hour by hour. It's very hard to report on this story in a timely manner other than live because it changes. So we're going to get into everything we can right now. Look, we have no one to say, this is who did this. This is who you should be looking at. We're going to take a look at everybody and everything that's being looked at right now and let the cards fall where they may. And at the end of the day, the goal is one thing: get Nancy Guthrie back alive. If she is out there alive to be brought back. It's probably something a lot of folks don't want to hear right now. But I think the reality is she may not be out there to be brought back. Based on the information that we've seen so far, I think that's a very valid question. Let's get into it, okay? And your thoughts in the comments section on YouTube or Substack, hiddenkillers.substack.com. The links to our YouTube channel and a Substack all in the description. Please hit subscribe right now wherever you're watching us so you don't miss any of the coverage of this and the many cases that we're following for you. Monday, February 9th at 5 p.m. is another deadline. $6 million in Bitcoin. Nancy Guthrie supposedly dies if that demand is not met. That is what is sitting on the table as this case continues to move forward and the country watches an 84-year-old woman's life tick down to a clock set by someone supposedly, as far as anyone can tell, has no intention of following through on any of it, if they're even real, if they even have the woman. As far as we know, we have not seen proof of life. Now, could there be things going on behind the scenes that they don't feel the rest of us need to know about? Yes, without a doubt. When you're fighting for the life of someone, there could be a lot going on behind the scenes. Let's hope that that's happening. But we're dealing with what we know. Here's the thing nobody is saying clearly enough. Yes, the ransom note does include a Bitcoin wallet address. TMZ has verified that. Do you understand how that works? You think you do or you do? So the Bitcoin wallet, TMZ has verified it. It is a real address on the blockchain. The family could, in theory, send $6 million in cryptocurrency to that wallet right now. But that is where the mechanics of this so-called kidnapping for ransom fall apart completely. The note, and this is according to Harvey Levitt, who read it, who held it, who described it on Hannity and CNN in detail. The note explicitly told the Guthrie family, you will have no way of contacting me. Not, you'll have some difficulty. I'm elusive. I'm a kidnapper. Now, contact will be limited. You will have no way. The note also stated, according to TMZ, that this will be their only communication, and they are done communicating and negotiating, which they've done none of. Here's the deal. No proof of life. No proof of life. was included. No photograph, no voice recording, no phrase, only Nancy would know, no confirmation that she's alive, no mechanism to arrange an exchange, no way to verify that dropping $6 million into a cryptocurrency wallet results in anything at all. So what are you actually buying? You'd be sending $6 million in a digital void with absolutely zero assurance that anyone sends Nancy home, and every law enforcement professional who has spoken publicly about this case knows it. CNN's Josh Campbell, a former FBI agent who personally worked kidnapping cases, confirmed that the family's public plea on Instagram means there is no private line of communication with anyone claiming to hold Nancy. None. Former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe told CNN he has no question that the FBI's hostage negotiators helped craft the family's Saturday video, every word of it. 3 officials briefed on the investigation confirmed to NBC News that the Saturday video was specifically in response to the second note, the one sent to KOLD on Friday, the one that contained no demands, no deadline, no proof of life. The family said, "We will pay," in response to a message that did not ask for anything. That's not a family negotiating with a kidnapper. This is an FBI-directed communication strategy, and it was not designed to move Bitcoin. Let me back up, because the details of these notes matter, and these mean there's more than one note. I know this is confusing. I'm sorry if you're following along and you're like, wait a second. I know. Just buckle up, sit down, absorb the information, and at the end of the day, you'll see how all the pieces of the puzzle land. We're not At the end of this, you're not going to have a neatly put together puzzle. You're going to have some chunks of it here. You're going to have a couple pieces over here, and you're going to have some Legos that are in the box of the puzzle that don't seem to fit. You know, when you're a kid and you have your board games or a puzzle or whatever, and you dump it out, and it's like, oh, we're out of Monopoly pieces, but good thing we have Candyland. And you dump it on the ground or on your table, and just everything is everywhere. That is this. That is what's going on right here. And the dog ate the rules. How about that? The dog ate the rule card. Somebody's trying to figure out how to play a game no one's heard of, and everything in the game is in a foreign language that exists. So that's what people are trying to figure out here. That's how complex, that's how convoluted this whole thing is. Because you're dealing with two things, fact and hope, and they're in two totally different lanes. Because fact at this moment in time doesn't seem to intersect or even take any sort of detour or go on an underpass or an overpass of the lane of fact. Hope is over here, here's fact. Hope is weaving in and out. And when it's your mother and it's all you have, you are going to cling to any shred of hope that exists. I am not faulting the Guthries for saying we will pay. Not one bit. What do you do in a situation like this? It's easy to Monday morning quarterback it going, well, you're crazy. Why would you? It's your mom. And if you have the resources, at the end of the day, it's a dollar figure on an account. And that's a life that has started and will end or already has ended. And you're doing your damnedest to try and get more out of that life. All four media outlets receive ransom communications: KOLD in Tucson, K-Gun in Tucson, TMZ in Los Angeles, and at least one other Tucson station. TMZ's co-executive producer told News Nation the second Tucson station received its note about an hour before TMZ got theirs on Tuesday morning. The notes demanded millions of dollars in Bitcoin and were sent to newsrooms, not the family. K-Gun, which is the name of a station, KGUN, it's called K-Gun in Tucson, went further than any other outlet on Saturday night. Reporter JJ McKinney said on the air that the note sent to K-Gun demanded $6 million by 5 p.m. on Monday, February 9th, with a direct threat on Nancy's life. If the deadline was not met, then K-Gun pulled the video, deleted it from X, took it down without public explanation. Law enforcement has not confirmed the ransom amount. That's a newsroom that got ahead of itself, realized it, and walked it back. But $6 million is now in the public record, and multiple outlets, including CNN, have reported K-Gun's account. The notes contain details that were not publicly available when they were sent, according to reporting from TMZ, the FBI, and multiple outlets that reviewed the contents. The notes referenced, and here's where we get into some gray area, because are these things guessable? Yeah. If you followed Nancy to the grocery store one time, you'd probably have these answers, or if you just took some wild guesses and simply went with odds. The notes apparently referenced Nancy's Apple Watch, a destroyed backyard floodlight, and details about what she was wearing the night she disappeared. Levin and TMZ and officials have described the notes as grammatically perfect and well-structured, with wording that suggested familiarity with the Tucson area. TMZ said there's just something in the wording that they talk about what happens if they receive the Bitcoin. What would be the next steps that pointed to something or someone local? Levin told Fox News Hannity that the note said Nancy is safe but scared and that she is aware of the demands being made. These are not details that come from a Google search. These are details that require physical knowledge of that house and physical proximity to Nancy Guthrie, supposedly on the night of January 31st. At least that's what a lot of people are clinging to. I would argue, and I think most minds would argue, maybe not. But again, we don't know what we don't know. And I'm hoping maybe there's something on the other side of this. We'll find out later that they said, and this is what led them to confirm or believe privately that the note is real. I hope to God they have that. According to TMZ's reporting, the note also included escalating consequences. If the first deadline, 5 p.m. Thursday, was missed, the demand would change. If the ransom was not fulfilled by February 9th, there would be a more serious consequence. So the first deadline passed Thursday with no follow-through, no escalation, no change in demands, pretty much nothing. The second note arrived Friday, different IP address, but according to KOLD News news director Jessica Bobla, the author attempted to prove they had written the first. It came through KOLD's anonymous online tip system, just like the first. It contained no demands, no deadline, no proof of life. KOLD is not calling it a ransom note. They're calling it a message. And the people closest to the content, the journalists who actually read these communications, are choosing their words carefully. Meanwhile, a California man named Derek Kalela was arrested on federal charges for sending a separate fake ransom demand directly to the Guthrie family. According to the criminal complaint, Kalela texted Annie Guthrie and her husband asking, "Did you get the Bitcoin? We're waiting on our end for the transaction." He admitted to the FBI that he was not involved in Nancy's disappearance. His arrest is not connected to the notes sent to media outlets. It is, however, a reminder of how many people are trying to exploit this family's nightmare, and how some people are really into how the flock of seagulls looked in 1987. Have you seen the guy's picture? It's like, oh my God, he quantum leaped. Yeah, I didn't know there. Yeah. Today's styles are so, like, I feel like we're in a world where, like, every decade of style is just like a trend. It's a group. It has a tribe, and people wear this one. I don't know. I haven't really seen a lot of this since 1987, and I was in a stroller going through Forest Mall. Flock of seagulls. Oh, he apparently also kidnapped Nancy Guthrie. Oh, wait, no, he's just needing money. So that's the ransom picture, a real Bitcoin address, but no communication channel. Intimate knowledge of the home, but no proof of life. Escalating threats, but no follow-through when the first deadline passed. A second message with no demands. And a family on Instagram saying, "We will pay," on instructions from the FBI in response to a note that did not ask for money. Whatever this is, and I want to be very precise here, the behavioral profile of these notes does not match for how kidnapping for hire or for ransom operations work. Not in the FBI's experience, not in any textbook, not in any case I've ever covered. A retired NYPD sergeant told Fox News this case might rewrite textbooks because there's so many different oddities going on. This is a polite way of saying this does not add up. It's not going to rewrite any textbooks because it's not a frickin' lesson. let's talk about what is actually happening in Tucson, because if you take your eyes off the random clock and watch the forensic activity, what investigators are doing, not what they're saying, this case tells you a very different story. Now, I also want to say this as we go into this part of the story. I am not saying anyone is guilty or has anything to do with this. We are going to be discussing the reporting that is out there in the ether. All right? That's what we're about to do. Allergies are horrible here today, by the way, so I apologize if I'm sniffling a bit. Start with the crime scene. Let's get your thoughts on this if you've not already commented. Hey, there's no better time than now. YouTube or Substack, the links are in the description. Let's start with the crime scene. When investigators arrived at Nancy's home on Sunday afternoon, February 2nd. Now, we've had 2 Sundays in this, so let's back up to the first Sunday. This is not just the other day. This is the second, the beginning of the month. They found blood on the front porch, later confirmed through DNA analysis as belonging to Nancy. The Associated Press reported signs of forced entry at the home, citing an unnamed source, though Sheriff Chris Nanos has not confirmed that detail. He was busy at a basketball game. The Ring doorbell camera had been physically removed from a wall. A backyard floodlight was destroyed. Ashley Banfield. We know Ashley. I've been on Ashley's show many times. Said a law enforcement source reported that multiple Nest cameras inside the home were smashed, though Nanos pushed back on that at Thursday's press conference, saying he was not confirming that any cameras were smashed or destroyed around the house. Nancy apparently did not have an active camera subscription, meaning even where motion was detected, no video was recoverable. It is concerning. It's actually almost disappointing because you've got your hopes up, Nanos told the Associated Press. Okay, they got an image. Well, we do, but we don't. And all of Nancy's belongings were still inside, allegedly. Her phone, her wallet, her car, her daily medication, everything except Nancy. Now, I know we just also said 2 different names of camera brands, Ring and Nest, 2 different cameras, and it's been reported both ways. I'll tell you this, from the photos that we saw of Brian Enton's reporting when he was at the doorstep of Nancy where the blood was, you know, when they released the scene, when Nanos dropped the ball spectacularly, the fixture, the affixing piece that was on the wall of Nancy's house next to her door, where if you have a digital doorbell, a camera doorbell, you know, it comes off the piece that attaches to the house. That, you know, this is the house. The piece kind of slides on there, and it's held. That was for not a ring. That camera display that were the piece that was there was not a ring fixture. That was the other brand that was up there on her wall. Just judging by shape. Now, does that mean much? No. But when details matter, I mean, the camera brand is the camera brand. There's Ring and there's Nest. That was a Nest setup. Just saying. Anyway. Then came a series of decisions by the Pima County Sheriff's Department that may define this case more than the ransom note ever could. They released the crime scene back to the family on Monday. You know, like you do. One day. Because we haven't seen this work out horribly in other cases. Alec Murdaugh, Ellen Greenberg. There's many cases. 24 hours after Nancy was reported missing in what they themselves were calling a possible kidnapping, Sheriff Nanos told reporters on Tuesday, the scene is done. We're done with the residents. Except they weren't. That statement aged about as well as you could expect. Investigators came back Wednesday, then Thursday, then Friday, then Saturday, then Sunday. And they're probably there as we're recording this right now. Crime scene tape finally went up and came down and went back multiple times. A Fox News analyst said plainly that during those gaps, when the scene was unsecured, anyone could have planted or removed evidence. When reporters asked Nanos about potential contamination, about what those gaps meant for chain of custody, about what a defense attorney might do with those evidentiary holes, Nanos said, "I'll let the courts worry about that." Yeah, you do that, you fucking idiot. You do that. You'll let the courts worry. Actually, you know, that's part of your job as a competent investigator. Oh, wait, you're not that. He later admitted he could have held off on releasing the scene. He also admitted he should have brought in the FBI sooner. You know, basically, he failed at everything. Why we tolerate people like this in positions of power is beyond me, but we sure do it a lot. I don't know if it's because they're old and they look wise, like they might be able to play the role on a Lifetime movie of a police detective, but really they're qualified to work at a closed-down family video. That's this guy. Should have moseyed off into retirement maybe a decade or two ago. But no, this is what you get. So when something horrible happens in the area where nothing horrible seems to happen very much, very low crime rate in this area, so before everybody's like, see? It's close to the Mexican border. Yeah, this town, this area where she lives, there's no, the crime rate is dismal, which is probably why people keep their doors unlocked. So before you start filling in the blanks of what you think reality is, how about we look at the actual stats? This is a very low crime area, also meaning Sheriff Nanos probably has very little experience fighting actual crime. Of this nature, of this magnitude anyway. So, that being said, you don't have a lot of reps in this, you don't have a lot of experience, you're probably not going to do the greatest of jobs. It's not a crazy thought to have. It's just, you know, reality, and a reality you don't want when that's your sheriff. On Friday, 5 full days after the initial processing, agents found a camera on the roof of the house. It had been missing in previous searches. 5 days. Oh, hey guys, here's a camera here. In a case where the doorbell camera was physically apparently ripped off the wall and the absence of video has been one of the investigation's biggest obstacles. Surprise! There's another camera on the roof of a house we've been in control of for 5 days. I don't know, call me crazy, but I feel like a bunch of people who watched Dateline once or twice in their life could have done a better investigative job than Nanos did out of the gate. Call me crazy. Former NYPD Inspector Paul Murrow called it a camera investigators apparently hadn't been aware of it. That camera on the roof. Missed for, yeah, apparently. Apparently so. Or they hadn't looked. And then came Sunday, day 8. And what happened on Sunday should have changed the way everyone is talking about the case. Fox Flight Team drone footage captured investigators at a septic tank behind Nancy's property. The footage is specific and it's disturbing. Investigators with a long pole reportedly jabbing it into the tank, using a flashlight to peer inside. One investigator in a sheriff's vest holding a notebook. When you're searching septic tanks on the victim's own property in a case that has been publicly described as a kidnapping for ransom, the investigation has moved in a direction that the public statements have not caught up with. Probing a septic tank on an 84-year-old woman's property is not what you do when you believe she's being held alive somewhere for a ransom exchange. That is a search for evidence, and the kind of evidence you look for in a septic tank is the kind nobody wants to talk about on television. At the same time, investigators visited a Circle K gas station about 10 minutes from Nancy's home, and according to the New York Post, about half a mile from her daughter Annie's residence. A Circle K spokesperson confirmed to NBC News that they provided law enforcement access to surveillance footage, but the most specific detail came from a gas station employee who spoke to Fox News Digital. The employee said investigators told them they were looking for a guy that got away. That's not an official statement. That's not from a press conference. That's a gas station worker supposedly repeating what a deputy told them on a Saturday morning. But in 9 days of official silence from the Pima County Sheriff's Department about suspects, it's the closest thing to a physical description of what investigators are actually looking for that's emerged publicly. A separate gas station also reported a suspicious vehicle to the FBI. NBC News confirmed that law enforcement was searching for a vehicle or vehicles that may or may not be connected to the case. Language that is deliberately non-committal and designed to preserve room for every possible direction. Investigators were also photographed Thursday afternoon at a staging area in a mall parking lot, minutes from Nancy's home, studying what Paul Murrow identified as a topographic map. Looks like something they were going to use to grid out to keep track of search areas, Murrow said on Saturday. Investigators were seen carrying a rolled map into Pima County Sheriff's Department headquarters. You grid out search areas when you're looking for something specific in specific terrain. You bring topographic maps into headquarters when the search has narrowed, not when it's expanding. And over the weekend, law enforcement activity at other locations intensified. On Saturday evening, according to CNN, Fox News Digital, and News Nation, at least 3 or 4 members of the Pima County Sheriff's Department arrived at the home of Nancy's daughter, Annie, in unmarked white SUVs and a truck. Deputies were inside for approximately 3 hours. Lights were dim, shades drawn, but bright photography flashes were observed through the windows. Fox News Digital captured video of the flashes. At one point, a jacket was placed over a window to block the view from media outside. Officials left shortly after 10:30 p.m. Fox News Digital observed a deputy loading a white case into his vehicle, which had been carried inside earlier, along with what appeared to be a brown grocery-sized bag. One deputy was observed exiting wearing blue latex gloves. Reporters on scene also reported hearing clanking noises from inside the home, suggesting deputies were moving or handling items. Coffindaffer, retired FBI special agent, as you all know, we talked to her Friday, regular contributor to our program, told News Nation the activity on the evidence extraction is what was going on. On Sunday, according to Fox 10, Phoenix investigators returned to Ann's home again, this time focusing on the garage and bedrooms with what appeared to be forensic photography flashes. No suspects have been named. No one in the family has been accused of any wrongdoing by authorities. All individuals are presumed innocent, but the documented investigative activity is what it is, and it's observable. What does it mean? It means they're looking at everything and anything they possibly can at this moment in time. If you were the last people with the missing person, yes, you're going to have a microscope on you. Does it mean you did anything wrong? No. It means they are looking at you closely. And I want to say this too, specifically about Ashley's reporting on this, with what she has put out, with what News Nation has put out, talking about who they believe, according to their source, is the prime suspect here. That could be completely accurate. It also doesn't mean it's the right suspect. I'm throwing, yes, the two can mutually exist. There are plenty of cases where you have a source within law enforcement that is telling you, this is our prime suspect right now. And the person who actually did it could be in a completely different lane and not the prime suspect. Just because someone has a prime suspect doesn't make that person immediately guilty either. They could be looking very closely at someone because they don't have a lot of other places to look. And once they really look close, they could walk away going, that did not pan out. But the statement that was made earlier, the statement, if true, if Ashley's source is correct, that is the prime suspect at that moment in time, that would be accurate. But it doesn't mean they're guilty. There's a big difference. It means that's who they're looking for looking at that moment in time. most cases, if you dig all the way back to the beginning of them, you will find people who are prime suspects. And then, upon more digging, are dismissed, are not considered prime suspects. Were they at one point in time? Could they? Yes, without a doubt. And have nothing to do with the actual crime. But could the statement be true at one moment in time? Yes. And that statement might have been true at that moment in time. And today, at this moment in time, it might not be at all. It doesn't mean the reporting was inaccurate or false. It means that that moment in time, the information that was given was that. Should you run with it? Should you report that? That's up to every individual reporter on how they're going to handle something like that. Especially if that person turns out not to be the person. But we don't know. We don't know the answer to any of these questions right now. I'm just pointing out the two can be completely accurate. It could turn out that that person has absolutely nothing to do with this, but her reporting can be 1,000% accurate because at the time, that's what the source said. But like I said, that's where you have to look and go, should that be reported? She's a reporter with far more reps in this world than I have. So I'm not going to be the one to judge. I'm just pointing out the reality of how these sort of things can work. She ain't no green reporter. She knows what she's doing. I respect her. I think she's a great reporter. I think Brian Enton's a great reporter. And I think whatever they're putting out there has some legs to it, has some teeth to it. Is it what's going to pan out to be factual, to be who's responsible? That's completely up in the air. But as one who's trying to report on events as they're churning away, those two aren't going to be putting out information that they're just pulling off of a Reddit thread. Now, where was Sheriff Chris Nanos on Saturday evening while his deputies were photographing the interior of a family member's home and leaving with evidence bags at 10:30 p.m.? Well, the Guthrie family was on Instagram holding hands and telling a purported kidnapper, "We will pay," while an 84-year-old woman with a pacemaker was spending her 7th night away from the medication her family says she needed to survive, if she's out there. Mr. Nanos, Sheriff, Barney 5, he was at the University of Arizona basketball game, sitting near the front row, Arizona versus Oklahoma State. Like you do when you're in the middle of a kidnapping murder investigation and literally the eyes of the world are on you. At that moment in time, you just couldn't resist the siren call of the hoops. Or the siren call of celebrity. Judge Gene Toll being quoted in the Alec Murdaugh case about Becky Hill. The siren call of celebrity. The siren call of basketball. Nanos couldn't resist, you know. People that have no clue about optics shouldn't be a sheriff. They shouldn't. Because it's part of the job. Optics are part of the job. It's not just modality of doing the job. It's how are people going to perceive what you're doing, because you are the front line of communication. And if your attitude is, I don't care what people think about me, this ain't a job for you, Sheriff. Fox News Digital obtained the photos and they went everywhere. And for a lot of people following this case, that image crystallized something that's been building all week, because this was not one bad look in an otherwise competent investigation. He hasn't been kicking ass all week and taking names. And it's like, dude, bro, I hate using that word. You earned it. Go take a couple hours, clear your mind, come back a stronger person. Now, one could look at it that way and go, everybody needs a break. And you do. You need kind of a palate cleanser if you're going to keep doing your job well. But I'm sorry, optics are everything. And if everybody else can be sitting there and not going to the basketball game and working their ass off on this, and you got your crew that's sitting there working their ass off on this, that family is dying, waiting for their mom. Every reporter is out here working nonstop all week, and you're the sheriff, guess what? You don't get to go on the little break. Sorry, you can stand not going to the basketball game, Junior. Oh, that's just too much. You just need that basketball break. Well, guess what? You're not qualified to be sheriff either. This is a pattern. And the people saying it loudest were not outsiders. They were his own rank and file. Apparently, the people who work for this dolt also think he's a dolt. The Pima County Deputies Organization went public against Nanos. This is extraordinary. This is his own deputies union putting their names on criticism of their sheriff during an active investigation. And you know what we're also going to do here? Just so you're aware, this guy has a lot of other shit up his sleeve. This guy has a lot of other cases, a lot of complaints, a lot of issues from other things beyond this, and we're going to expose all of it. So buckle up, Nanos. Sergeant Aaron Cross, the organization's president, told Fox News Digital that experienced pilots had been reassigned from the air operations unit in the weeks before Nancy's disappearance. The pilots trained on the department's Cessna search aircraft, the one equipped with high-resolution thermal imaging, the one with advanced sensors, the one specifically built for finding people in the desert terrain, was reassigned to street patrol after a personnel dispute with the sheriff. His ego was hurt. The pilot appealed the decision directly to Nanos. Nanos reassigned him anyway, allegedly. The pilot even made a personal plea to Sheriff Nanos, but allegedly was ignored, and he was sent to patrol, a union told Fox News Digital. This is unfortunately typical of Sheriff Nanos' leadership style. The organization also said the department's most experienced search and rescue deputy was transferred to patrol last year without a replacement, simply because he'd been there too long. That left a crucial unit short-staffed during what became, in the union's word, one of the highest profile searches in PCSD history and during the busiest time of year for search and rescue. So he seems to really have his shit together, doesn't he? So when Nancy Guthrie disappeared from her home in the middle of the night, a helicopter went up, but it lacked thermal imaging, allegedly. The Cessna that was built for exactly that kind of search sat on the ground because the person certified to fly it had been punished for crossing the sheriff, for having a different opinion. The fixed-wing aircraft did not launch until approximately 5 p.m., hours into the search. A law enforcement source with knowledge of the situation told Fox News Digital what everyone in that department already knew: 3 hours in a search for a vulnerable adult is an eternity. For someone's ego to finally calm down enough to go, yeah, maybe we should do this. And Nanos' own response to the mounting scrutiny revealed more than he probably intended. He told reporters, and this is a direct quote, "Sometimes I'm speaking in generalities, and I'm not used to everybody hanging on my words and then trying to hold me accountable for what I say, but I understand." Let me remind you, you're the sheriff. You're not used to people hanging on. Words matter. I'm sorry that you're just learning this, as you've been the sheriff for how long now? That was his explanation for why he initially told NBC News that Nancy had been taken from her bed. A statement his department later clarified was figurative. Missing person investigation. I'm going to tell you specifically where she was taken from and then back it up by going, I kind of pulled that out of my ass. Sorry, I'm not used to talking. Oh, it's a basketball game? Can we get tickets? Do they have nachos? Okay, great. I know. How? Why? Are we living in a simulation? It's just, how is there this much incompetence? It was around the same time he told NBC, we know she was harmed at the home, but we don't know to what extent. Then told the Arizona Daily Star, if I said that, I misspoke or something. If NBC came back for confirmation now, I wouldn't give it. The Tucson Sentinel ran an editorial suggesting Nanos should stop talking to press entirely until there's something substantive to report. Oh, you think? His department may have taken that advice. Sunday's official statement was a single post on X. The Nancy Guthrie investigation is ongoing. Follow-up continues at multiple locations. No suspects, person of interest, or vehicles have been identified. No scheduled press briefings. If any significant developments occur in the case, a press conference will be called. That's a department that has gone quiet, and departments go quiet for one of two reasons. They have nothing, or they are building towards something they're not ready to announce, or their leadership is just so incompetent, everyone is begging them, just don't talk. Given what we can see from the outside, the septic tank probes, the gas station surveillance poles, the topographic map grids, what TMZ identified as a Cellbrite forensic extraction device carried into the family member's home by an agent wearing an ICAC shirt, the consecutive nights of evidence collection with photography flashes and deputies leaving with bags and cases, vehicles removed from properties, is what the sheriffs called standard investigative practices. And the president of the United States, take this for what it is, because I feel like this could be pulled out of someone's ass too, told reporters aboard Air Force One on Friday that the investigation was going very well and that a solution could come with definitive answers and the possibility of identifying a definitive suspect. I do not believe they have nothing. FBI Director Kash Patel is receiving personal updates on the case. I know, doesn't it make you feel safe and like they really have it? So we go from that to that. I wonder if Kash got the right jacket so he can feel super official. Did he get off the plane? Look it up if you know what I'm talking about. Charlie Kirk case. Stayed on his plane because he needed the right jacket. Slowed down the investigation because he needed the right jacket. Needed a look. Was more concerned about his vanity. Great example of how narcissism wins. Attorney General Pam Bondi, who has known Savannah Guthrie for more than 25 years, is receiving constant updates, according to Axios. So here's where it stands. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She has a pacemaker that disconnected from her home at 2:28 a.m. on February 1st. She requires daily medication. Her family has said publicly that missing the medication could be fatal. She has now been without it for 9 days. Her church, St. Andrew's Presbyterian in Tucson, where she's been a devoted member, supposedly, because there's contradictory reporting on that too, that she's only gone online, that she's not going there regular. Who knows? Who knows anymore? They asked everybody to pray for her. So good. Okay. That's good. Appreciate that. Hundreds attended a prayer service at a nearby church earlier this week, some driving as far as Phoenix. She raised her 3 children after her husband Charles died when Savannah was just 16. She lived alone in a quiet community in the Catalina foothills, and on the night of January 31st, she took an Uber to her daughter's home for dinner and games and was driven home afterwards. The garage door opened at 9:48 p.m. and closed at 9:50. By 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera was disconnected. By 2:12 a.m., motion detection software registered a person at the home, but no video was captured because Nancy did not have an active camera subscription. By 2:28 a.m., her pacemaker app went dark. When her family went to check on her around noon the next day after she missed church, she was gone. Phone on the counter, wallet inside, car in the garage, her blood on the front porch, doorbell camera ripped off the wall, and Nancy gone. 9 days later, the official position of the Pima County Sheriff's Department is that there are no suspects, no persons of interest, and no vehicle identified. The FBI is offering $50,000 for information. Multiple ransom notes are being vetted. A Bitcoin wallet address exists, but has produced no negotiation and no proof of life and no exchange mechanism. A deadline is here. 5 p.m. Monday, February 9th. That's the next one up from the time of our recording of this. And the investigation on the ground, the one you can see through drone footage and parking lot photographs and gas station employees and court filings, looks nothing like a kidnapping rescue operation and everything like a case that has already turned a corner the public is not being told about. And maybe that's fine. Thank goodness there are other agencies involved on this right now. Where does this go from here? That's a good question. Let me point out this. In active investigations, you do sometimes have the authorities giving you little to no information or flat out lying to the public. We have no suspects at this time. We need the public's help. We need this. That's what was going on in the Kohberger investigation. James Fry, for the beginning, several days into it, while they were already actively tracing Brian Kohberger, while they already had his name because of the DNA match from a knife sheath, they were still actively telling the public they did not know who they were looking for. They knew who they were looking for. They were telling the public a completely different story. Now, that was as to not tip off Kohberger so they could keep following him. Could that be what's going on here right now? Yes. Is it what's going on here right now? We don't know. There are so many unknowns, and there's so many contradictory pieces to this story of seemingly basic facts that should be answered or answerable. There's a lot of chaos here a weekend. Usually that's reserved for the first few days. It seems to continue to be horrible. And I don't know if that's just because of the nature of what the case is, because of hope, because people, rightfully so, want her back and are going to hold on to that hope until there's no more hope to give. And you also have a department and a sheriff that is speaking out of both sides of his mouth and admitting it. Where is Nancy Guthrie? Is she still alive? That's the question. Your thoughts in the comments section on YouTube or Substack. Love for you to weigh in. Love to get your thoughts. This is such a heartbreaking case. Of course, I mean, I hate the term thoughts and prayers because it just seems cliche, but obviously we certainly extend them without a doubt. I just feel like that's such a trite statement, you know? It certainly does not convey the hell that Savannah Guthrie and her family are going through right now. And if Nancy is still alive, what she might be going through right now. I feel like there should be something better to say than that. But sometimes it's all you're left with. When there's nothing actionable you can do other than talk about this. You give it to a higher power and hope, and you pray that against the odds something good will come of this. And they'll get Nancy back. Your thoughts in the comments section, YouTube and Substack. The links are in the descriptions. And if you've not done so already, please press subscribe on our podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, wherever it may be. Press subscribe so you don't miss any of our reporting on this case. We will continue to cover it for you day by day. Right here. All right, we'll continue our conversation in the comments. Until then, I'm Tony Bruschi. We'll talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers podcast. This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Bruschi, Stacey Cole, and Todd Michaels.
This is going to be interesting. 8 days into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, purported ransom notes have become the centerpiece of the public narrative. But the behavioral profile of those notes raises more questions than answers. At least 3 identical letters were sent to media outlets demanding millions in Bitcoin, containing non-public details about Nancy's home, yet providing no way for the family really to respond. The family has now gone on camera saying, "We will pay." What does it all mean? Joining me we have Robin Dreeke, retired FBI special agent, chief of the Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program, to help break all of this down. We're going to be doing this into a couple different sections here. I want to talk about the ransom notes first, because there's a lot to unpack here. So much that has come out over the weekend about the various notes, the legitimacy of each one of them, the contents of all of them. Robin, ransom notes in this case were sent to 3 media outlets that were, we understand, KOLD, KGUN, and TMZ, but included no phone number, no email, not necessarily an encrypted channel, no way for the family to communicate back. In your experience with the FBI, when a kidnapper wants some money, what does the communication pattern typically look like? And is this case following any sort of communication pattern from legitimate people who legitimately want a ransom to release a hostage here?
Yeah, no. There's simple answers to complex questions sometimes, and this is it on the notes.
Yeah,
it's not legitimate. I mean, the legitimate notes from the perpetrator, yeah, sure, but legitimate that their primary focus was ransom for money for a life. Low probability because of what you just said. You know, we keep going to the stats, the averages, and then common sense, and we just play things out. If money was the objective, then they would make it easy to get the money, and it's not. The first thing that everyone does in a ransom case is show proof of life. The other thing that they also do is keep it extremely private and away from law enforcement as much as possible, and celebrity notoriety, so they have a greater chance of manipulating the family into giving the money. None of this is at play right now.
Do you think this just got bigger than they anticipated? That this, whatever happened, it just exploded?
I think it's a distraction and of a panic escalation inside that house. I'm going back. I'm still holding firm on what I've said from the very beginning on this. This was a panic escalation of a home invasion / robbery by someone that had some sort of familiarity with Nancy in her home. And if you're looking at the law of averages for home invasions and robberies of elderly people, they typically target them for, 1, they think they have money, 2, they think they'll remain asleep while the invasion's going on. Something went sideways in that house for an escalation, and they took her to keep deflection away from the fact on themselves so they can get away. That's the law of stats and averages. Again, my mind always remains open to new data and information coming in, but from what we're seeing that is publicly available, this is what we're leaning towards right now.
Are we even talking about the same people? Are we talking about the same people that took Nancy Guthrie as being the same people behind any of these notes? Or are these two totally different crimes that are taking place? And the notes, really, they give hope when there doesn't seem to be a lot of it. And we're clinging to this idea that maybe these are legitimate, but there's not a lot of evidence to point to that they are. I mean, if this was a home invasion gone wrong, if it escalated, she woke up, something happened, and they're like, well, shit, the only way we're not going to get caught is if she's gone. Whether that means she's kidnapped or she's dead. If you're doing a home invasion, you're not in the business of kidnapping people, typically. Right. So the idea that, hey, let's hold her for ransom just suddenly doesn't seem to be a logical idea. It doesn't seem to track very well. What does seem to track is that, oh, she saw us, she can turn us in now. Or maybe she scratched somebody, there'll be DNA and she will be part of the evidence. So we better get rid of the evidence, meaning her. And I'm not trying to be cold or callous. I'm just speaking on what this is. Are these two totally different things? What's your take on that?
I think it's a moronic escalation of a lot of bad decisions.
Yeah.
One thing that's been consistent with all the cases we've covered, guys, is the fact that none of these people are intelligent. Zero. Yeah. There's zero emotional intelligence. And so every time someone says they're sophisticated or using, Bitcoin sophisticated technique, okay, maybe one element, but the rest of it's complete chaos and stupidity. And so what you have here, and again, it's typical on cases that are similar to this, is that in a panic mode where things didn't go according to plan, and they never ever do when you're dealing with human life and their desire to remain alive and intact, is that things go sideways, and people very rarely, especially when you have low emotional intelligence, plan for things going sideways. And so having a plan B or C, so they're improvising on the fly. A lot of times when you hit panic mode, improvising on the fly, you do dumb things like take bodies, take people, and then so again, you do your thought experiment, place yourself in the moron's shoes.
Moron.
That is, moron.
It's a sophisticated way of saying moron.
Like I shop at the Target.
Yeah, the morons at the Target.
Morons. I listen to too much Audible books. And so you place yourself in the moron's shoes, and they're thinking, all right, I forgot to grab anything in the house, or there was nothing there because the daughter takes care of everything. And so in panic mode, after they depart the house, let's see if we can get something from this. Let's say we have her and hold her for ransom. Let's try to cut our losses. I can totally see this as not this sophisticated operation, but a bunch of, or a few, or even just one complete bungling idiots that tried this as plan B.
Do you think that's what happened, though? And here, there's little pieces kind of hanging by your shoestring here that make me wonder, maybe this is what happened. I don't think statistically your odds are very good that the people with the home invasion kidnapped her for ransom. Right. But maybe. You have some of these notes. Harvey Levin from TMZ, they got one of the notes. He has described the note as grammatically perfect, structured, and layered. That doesn't mean a lot. Maybe it does. I'm going to run it all by you.
Maybe he has Grammarly.
Maybe, or just had it written by ChatGPT. Boom, you're done. And written with what officials called it familiarity with the Tucson area. Again, you could do it with GPT. Here's the part that that Harvey, I guess, has been sticking on. And it makes me wonder a little bit, too. Apparently, there's a reference in there about Nancy's Apple Watch and a placement of it that you wouldn't necessarily immediately think. That not in a place you would necessarily immediately think. Those are Harvey's exact words. That's the quote when he was describing where that watch was. So that makes you think, oh, maybe there is some information in this ransom note that is something only a kidnapper would know. A lot of the other pieces that have been leaked out or that we're talking about, I don't know. To me, it just reads like, take a guess. And like, if you throw 20 facts out there about a 84-year-old woman and her home, and if you just look at the house, you Google the house, you walk, if you have any familiarity with the house, you could probably list a bunch of things that one may say, well, maybe only the killer would know, or the kidnapper would know this or that. But in reality, anybody with an educated guess could probably guess you have a backyard floodlight, and things of that nature. What Nancy was wearing that night. We don't know what Nancy was wearing that night when she went to bed because Nancy's not around. So I don't even know how we actually answer that question. From a behavioral standpoint, what does this level of this possible interior knowledge with the notes tell you about who likely wrote them?
So again, we'll talk about this on the other parts, I'm sure. But so if we keep going down my road of probability and of home invasion going sideways, from someone that had knowledge of Nancy, her home, which comes down to it was a worker of some sort, someone that was involved. And I'll use my own family as an example. So my mother-in-law lives down in Florida. A number of years ago, when they first moved down to Florida, she's elderly. She's roughly Nancy's age now. And, when they have workers come to the house, my wonderful, kindly mother-in-law will take someone that's maybe working on a roof. She'll invite them in. She'll give them some iced tea. Yep. She'll sit them down, have some lemonade, walk them around the house, offer the bathroom, all these things that good, honest, ethically and moral people do for others out of the kindness and generosity of their heart. It is very, very easy for someone nefarious intentions, take up all those data points, log them in, make a note, and there you go. I mean, this is such an easy thing for a malicious social engineer to do with very limited access. Just a one-time. I mean, think about the amount of data that you could take in a 30-second or 2-minute bathroom break inside someone's house to get exactly all the details you need to do that. It's no time at all. And so the inside job, I think it was an inside job. I think it was an inside job by someone who's worked inside that house or outside that house that used the bathroom or something like that from Nancy, who is a good, kind woman that everyone loved to death, or is a referral from someone at the church, or, her daughter, who was doing all the caretaking, setting up most likely, we don't know because it has been reported, but setting up all the appointments, setting up all the maintenance on the house. She did it for years and years and years. And so there's the treasure trove of information. It's coming from the one person or one family that was doing all the caretaking of everyone that had access in and out of that house.
And we'll talk about the crime scene, and we're going to talk about all of the activity, not only at Nancy's house, but also Annie's house over the weekend in just a little bit. So I want to get to that. I want to keep talking about the Ransom area right now. I mean, there's so many facets to this case, but we got to kind of break them down in a way that makes sense. Otherwise, we have chaos, and that's what I've been trying to wrap my brain around all weekend. The family has posted, as of our recording here, 3 separate videos over the last several days. I've obviously asking for proof of life, saying we need to know without a doubt that she's alive and that you have her. And then by Saturday, the message and the language has shifted a little bit. We've received your message and we understand we will pay. That's a massive change in posture with really no public indication that proof of life was ever provided. Behind the scenes, Robin, can you give me any insight or give us any insight what might be going on? Are there communications possibly happening that are not public knowledge as of this point, or is this just kind of a blind plea out onto Instagram that hopes maybe the people who are writing these notes legitimately have Nancy?
Yeah, I think it's a blind plea. So undoubtedly, I should say, the FBI crisis negotiators and profilers are involved with helping the family craft the language and what goes in them. Everything ultimately does come down to what the family wants to do, and with the support of people with reps. And there's been an escalation in what they're saying. There's an empathetic plea, there's a very transactional plea, and then there's a hey, we'll pay plea. And all of them are a great escalation of trying to elicit response by the guy that did this. If there was communication outside of these that were back channel we're unaware of, you wouldn't be seeing these types of communication. I think the greatest frustration they're dealing with right now is that you have crisis negotiators involved. But crisis negotiators, it takes 2 people to negotiate. This is one-sided, so they're literally blasting all they can, very well-crafted language into the Ethernet, seeing that they gather a response. And the one thing they keep asking for is a proof of life. And so on the other side, there's only 2 possibilities: unwilling or unable.
Yeah.
And especially the deadlines have passed. We've got another one coming here shortly, and we're live as we're recording this. So what happens when that next deadline passes and we haven't seen her? I mean, is it time to really start thinking the obvious here? Sadly.
Do you want the stats?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the stats are pretty clear on this. There hasn't been, I looked it up, there hasn't been one case in recorded history that we know of where there has been 0 proof of life given where someone's been returned alive.
What was your take on their language in that last video? I think a lot of people are talking about that, talking about we want her back so we, and I don't have the exact verbiage, but it was about celebrating her. I mean, that makes a lot of people go to celebration of life, and they think of things of that nature. Was that language crafted particularly specifically with a reason to be put in that video? I would think whatever they're going to put out is going to have run through a lot of people before it hits send. What was your take on that? The celebration that seemed like a weird choice of words. for a plea to bring a kidnapped victim back?
You know, it was an interesting choice of words. It struck me like it struck everyone else. It struck me just like it hit you, and that is the celebration of life of her passing, right? As a potentiality. And so so reverse the optic and put yourself on the other side. To me, it's an empathetic poke, I think, of trying to allow the person that did this to, hey, we want her alive, but here's some language in here. We just want her back in any condition we can get her back in. And it was more of a permission, from my understanding, a permission of them to, hey, if you only have the body, we'll pay for that. Again, with the main intent, get response. Give us a hint, give us something. And
did that "we will pay" message really mean we will pay, or is there some sort of hidden meaning to that? I mean, and I'm not trying to like get too elusive here, but does that mean something else? Is I know you've said, it's designed to elicit response. It's designed to elicit something from somebody. We don't know if they have her or if it's somebody that's just trying to steal money or whatnot. But we're talking $6 million here on the line in Bitcoin, reportedly, is the deadline for Monday night, with no proof of life. Who knows how this will age, but as of right now, where it's Monday morning when we're recording this, what do you think they do? What should they do? I mean, I can guarantee everybody behind the scenes is saying don't pay it without proof of life.
I don't think,
but it's their mom. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like it could be a complete red herring. Do you pay it? Do you let it? I don't know. What do you think?
It'd be interesting, wouldn't it? I think so. If there's no way to track it, there'd be no, again, this pure Robin's conjecture, right?
Yeah.
If there's no way to track it and retrieve it, you're not going to pay it. Because it'd be like taking $6 million and throwing it down a toilet. Because at this point, I think the outcome, if you don't have a sign of life or a sign of anything or any communication whatsoever, the outcome is not going to change. And I would think the only way they do pay it is if there is a way to track it, if there is a way to have law enforcement say, go ahead, we can do something with this if you do that. I think, from my gathering from the family and from everyone involved, that we statement in there is we collectively are willing to engage and do this. We are all on board, meaning team family, team NBC, whatever it is all on board with doing this. And also you gave I thought she did a great job, Savannah did, of showing no reticence, no hesitation. In other words, hey, showing compliance and malleability to their desire to kind of out them on the fact that, hey, we're being compliant. Where are you? And yeah, that's what
exactly. Where are you? Where are you? What are you? And I think anybody better be thinking very long and hard right now if they don't have Nancy Guthrie and they're trying to get money out of somebody. If there's ever a kidnapping case with the full resources of the United States federal government looking at you, if there is a way in hell to track this, and we know from any sort of regular human being using Bitcoin or some of these methods here, there are untraceable ways of doing this. But if there's some way of doing it, they're going to have that way available at this point in time. It may be doubtful that that's even a possibility. It might not be a lever that can be pulled no matter who you are. But anybody that's out there demanding money at this time, they will very likely find you. So you better have something or don't play this game. I
think they're running hard. Again, I just reversed, and I think the abduction aspect of this, the ransom aspect of it, is a distraction from them running hard.
Yeah. Your thoughts in the comment section on YouTube or on our Substack. Hidden Killers Pod is where you can go to get to the Substack, and YouTube, obviously. Weigh in on the conversation there.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers Podcast.